All right, friends, it's T, and I'm back with a new video by Jason Blaha himself, the fitness, strength, and fitness guru, man, the gym slave, gym lifting slave bro. Yeah, man. We're going to review this video together. Jason Blaha says, training to zero reps in reserve. Training to reps in reserve. Okay, I have no clue what that's about, but okay, training zero reps to a reserve, whatever that means. Okay, let's see what he has to say.
How do we define training hard? Because what we usually hear, when you look at different studies, different research, people's results, we know that training past failure and, all of that stuff isn't actually necessary for maximizing muscle growth, but sets need to be hard. And this is what they consistently find is that when sets are taken very, very close to failure, or to failure, it produces pretty similar results. But if sets are pretty far from failure, they just simply stimulate less muscle growth. And we can actually have a point where they're so far from failure to where they're almost meaningless in terms of their benefit. But a lot of times people are like, well, how do we know what training hard is? So if you watch all these sets that I'm doing, every single set here is about 1 rep from failure, and one of these exercises I actually take to failure. But there's such a subtle difference. People will say, well, how do you know that? Because I'm watching it and I barely see any difference. But the difference is what you feel in it. The longer you train, one of the things that I look for is, does the bar move slower? Like right there, watch that incline. If you were to watch all 10 of those reps, that last rep, when I touch the chest, notice it goes up considerably slower.
That last rep goes up considerably slower. Yeah, it's neurological. It's neurological with some chemical strength, so forth and so on. Your body, that's how human bodies work. They can only go so far. Plus, there's lactic acid buildup there. It won't allow you to do that. Have you seen that video I posted of that? I think that, I don't know if he's Asian or whatever, whoever, doesn't matter who he is. Some kid on a bench press where the weight came down onto his chest and rolled onto his neck and he died. People ask me, is that real? Yeah, that is real. That is real, okay? That kid killed himself because, man, he couldn't even try to fidget the bar off of himself to save himself because he went to what I would call failure, I guess. His CNS and his body failed at some point. He couldn't even move the weight at all, and he died. So this happens to a lot of people in the gym. I've seen it. Sometimes it could happen within 3 reps, 4 reps, 5 reps. People, they can't bring the weight up. They're stuck. They even have to have people come over to help them to lift the weight up. Why? They can't even throw it off their body or roll it off of themselves because they just went way too far to the end. They pushed it to the end. Look, I'll tell you this. Do not do anything to failure. It's not a necessity because you're working out. Your muscles are going to get worked out anyway on the next set and the following set and the following set. So why the fuck does anybody need to go to failure? Why? Because you want to injure yourself, you want to damage yourself, you want to kill yourself, especially on a bench press or a squat. I've seen people in gyms dislocate their arms, their shoulders. I've seen people get injured, like their back, a squat machine, because they went to failure. They thought, well, these people told me I have to go to failure. Listen to me. You listen to yourself instinctually. Your instincts will tell you what is good and what isn't. Don't listen to anybody out there telling you you should work out to failure. This is crazy. Don't do any of these things, man. Just do what is best for you.
And I'm not always a good example of that because I'm a fairly explosive lifter. For me, this is all slow. Like I am intentionally moving relatively slow, even though these look like fairly fast reps. But I mean, people who've watched me pull max deadlifts are like, that didn't look like a max. And I'm like, no, it was a lifetime PR pretty much. I've missed lighter lifts, but in my case, I noticed for me, like right there, that set of bench, notice that one moves slower than the others. For me,
Here's another thing. Any physical labor, you can consider lifting in a gym physical labor as well. It's physical labor because you're moving things around. The more you do, the more you wear out your body. That's the thing. People don't realize the more you do physical labor, the more you wear out your joints, your body. Your joints will wear out with time. The more you use it, the more it'll wear out. People don't even realize that either. I know that Jason has problems with his joints. He has problems with his entire body. He's suffering from sarcopenia. He's suffering from sarcopenia. And there are many other lifters out there. I've seen influencers and things. They are suffering. I know you can notice it. You know right away when you see things. The eyes do not lie. The eyes do not lie. Like I said, I have nothing against people lifting a heavy weight. Absolutely not. I think you should do what is best for you. But repetitive lifting is going to hurt you in the long run. Now, I'm not saying, hey man, I'm trying to be your dad or your mom. I'm trying to tell you, it's gonna give you this and it's gonna do that and it's gonna wear you out. Da, da, da. No, I'm not really even giving advice. I'm simply making you think about things when I'm talking in the video. 'Cause some people ask me, they go, "Oh, you're making these videos. You're repeating some stuff, whatever." It may sound like some of the things I'm repeating, but it gets through to many people because they write me on my channel. They said, "Yeah, it didn't, you saved me from this or that or whatever." I just think that you shouldn't be a lifting gym slave, bro. Get it? To something that I don't know. I don't even know how to describe that. You know what I mean? Like I said. But anyway, a lot of what he's doing is not carryover. I'm telling you, a lot of people that are moving heavy weight for this strength to get good at moving things, I'm telling you, a lot of them, they're when in the real world, they're not really moving things around. The only person that could move something well in the real world is someone that works a physical labor job and maybe going to the gym. Because I knew a construction worker, even like myself, I worked construction before. I work with glass and metal, a whole bunch of things. But I'm saying that people that work physical labor, I had a friend coming into the gym not long ago. He was working in construction and he would work out in the gym, moving some heavy weight. But he's got that physical labor experience. He'll move things around. But just people that lift and they don't do anything physically, I would say they're the most laziest people. That's what I noticed. They don't want to lift anything. It's funny. They want to lift in the gym, but when it comes into the real world, they don't want to lift anything, man. They don't want to even lift a chair. I'm not joking, man. I know it sounds funny, but whatever.
I know if I attempt one more rep, my form is going to have to break down. And that's what we're looking for.
Yes, one more rep and your form is going to break down. You could call it a form. Like I said, I don't tell people how to work out in the gym. I just talk about some things about eccentrics, concentric. I talk about, partial reps. You could do this. It makes you be able to do heavier work. I know that eccentrics give you more strength through these negatives. It's kind of obvious that concentric fatigues you, and it can prove it. If you run up a stairwell, if you run up the opposite direction, that is called concentric. That fatigues you. But it makes you better when you climb up those stairs. It will make you better at climbing them, for sure, if you keep practicing at it, okay. But what do you get when you run down the stairs? Well, you don't get fatigued running down the stairs, right? So if you're not getting fatigued, that means you could do more of running downstairs than you could running upstairs. So that would mean that the more negatives you could do, then you can bank on more strength. Now that concentric exercise should be lighter eventually after you do a lot of eccentric movements or eccentric exercises. Plus, you get some damage, which will give you an adaptation in more strength when you do eccentric. There's an adaptation in muscle growth. There's an adaptation in negatives in more of these, in more strength. So it'll help you in the long run in your concentric exercises. But like I said, it's each to their own, man. People need to figure out on their own. I put a video in my community section of a guy, Pygmy. He does a lot of these experimental videos. He did one on negatives. He even did a video on partials. I put some stuff in there before, but not a lot, because it's not important. But you to see these things you can figure out on your own. But like I said, when it comes to the eccentric exercise, when you try to not do too much concentric, full concentrics, you're able to move more weight. And if you're able to move more weight, you're able to recruit more motor units and get more androgen receptors at the same time. And you get a relative amount of muscle damage, which will give you an adaptation in more muscular strength. That is the whole point. What is bodybuilding? I think people need to sit down and ask and question, what is bodybuilding? Why is it called bodybuilding? See what I mean? It isn't some dude on a stage. Okay? That's just made up stuff, okay? It's a beauty pageant.
Because people don't understand failure on a single joint exercise is very easy to judge. The current
Think about it. Why do they call it powerlifting? And why do they call bodybuilding bodybuilding? If bodybuilding it's incorporated in bodybuilding, powerlifting is incorporated in bodybuilding, plus all the accessory work. If all the accessory work, what you call accessory work, is incorporated plus this powerlifting stuff, then what's the difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting? Well, then bodybuilding must be more sophisticated, it must be superior to powerlifting because it hasn't left out anything to chance. Do you understand me? It's incorporated everything, the accessory plus the powerlifting. But powerlifting has left out accessory work. Why do you think Blaha is doing accessory now all the time? Why do you think he's doing that? Well, he's going to tell you what on bodybuilding. He thinks bodybuilding is about having a naked body, a nice looking naked body. That's absolutely not. It's to make you stronger so that when you do lift, when you do powerlifting, these powerlift moves, you're not going to get injured because you need to focus on the small things and then you do the big things. Get it? The small things are just as important as the look, the small things are just as important as the big things, since these are doing more full body workouts. Yeah.
when you see me get to the curls, it's very obvious. I go to do a rep and the
Again, look at him. He's throwing the weight up. I see this again and again. And look at his elbows. It passes his back area. He literally is just throwing the weight up in the air. There's no eccentric movement. So the people ask me, well, why are you laying on the floor doing your back, laying on the floor? Because you could sit and do rows with cables, whatever. You could do a bunch of things, okay? You can move the eccentric slow. The slower you move the eccentric, the more you're going to get some of this damage. You're going to get an adaptation. But you won't get adaptations if you keep throwing the weight up and down. It's based on the eccentric movement. You may be just throwing it, never getting an adaptation there by throwing it and not concentrating on the eccentric. The down force is extremely important in bodybuilding. That's why people are so gung-ho. They keep throwing these weights up in the air. I try to explain this. Stop throwing the weight in the air and move it slowly on the down force. Even deadlifting. Too many people deadlifting, they throw the weight up in the air. They think they're Olympic lifters. They try to throw it up as fast as they can, but they never bring it down slow. You understand me? If you want to get an adaptation in that movement, if you want an adaptation in that heavy movement, you need to focus on the eccentric. Otherwise, your body is not going to give you any more adaptations. You'll just be adapted to the exercise. Yes.
weight does not move out of the bottom. You see me visibly clench and contract. My pecs move, my bicep moves. The weight doesn't.
Yeah, it's moving. It's moving in the air. It's moving through the air. You know, have you seen people that work in factories? I've worked in factories. I've worked in custom home builder. I've worked in companies. I work with glass and steel. I work with all kinds of stuff. I worked with my hands all my life. I did aluminum siding for houses. I remember the first time I was fucking using a hammer. I could barely the next day. Fuck my hand, my wrist, my hand hurt like a motherfucker. Like nailing. We had to nail. I didn't use no nail guns. I had to nail it by hand with a hammer. Fucking this aluminum siding. It was crazy. So I worked several jobs, like construction jobs, you name it, bro. I worked in a lumber yard, a fucking hardware lumber yard. I was even a manager in a hardware lumber yard, a lumber store or hardware lumber store. I did so much work, man. I cut trees. I can't even remember right now. Fuck, I did so many jobs. I worked as a laborer too when I was younger. I did a lot of labor work, I gotta tell you. That's why I say that my left leg is bigger than my right leg because I use that a lot, and then my right side is bigger than my left side, which is crazy. So I have a lot of problems sometimes. I got pain in my. I used to have really bad pain in my right shoulder because I overused it, and I have problems with my left knee because I overused it. There's something there. I don't know what it is. There's a kind of a weakness there sometimes when I go down. So I kept getting scared with the deadlift because every time I would go down, there was some kind of weakness or something bad there. But eventually, I noticed if I go all the way down and up and down, like full squat, it kind of gets better. But if I do partial squats on it, there's a weakness there because there's something wrong. I'm not sure if it's worn out or what the fuck. And my left hip. And so yeah, like I said, uh, you know, you can wear yourself out doing specific, lifts and labor and stuff. It wears your joints out and shit. Be careful.
That's it. That's muscle failure. Multi-joint movement is a little more complex because a lot of times guys will grind through reps.
Yeah, multi-joint movement. I would say multi-joint.
And here's the thing that I would tell you. That's essentially a useless rep. Any rep on a big movement where you have to shift and grind and there's downward movement of the bar is a bad rep. You probably didn't stimulate much growth because you've already exceeded failure. Like that rep failed, and if you had tried to maintain the same tempo and the same technique, you would have just got stapled. Okay, so you learn to feel for that. So again, if you watch the curl here, here's the thing you'll notice. I get to the end around rep 15 or so, and I think...
Again, this guy is a chronic lifter. Chronic lifting is you're adapted to all these exercises. There's no more adaptations. I even brought it. One guy was asking me just a while ago in my comment section. There's a guy that keeps bothering me all the time, trying to debunk me or some bullshit stuff, whatever. I told him. He says, "Oh, where did you get this thing about periodic lifting or whatever? Proof this, that, whatever." I did. It says in Satellite Cell Use It or Lose It. It tells you periodic lifting. Yeah, It says periodic lifting will get the progenitor cell to come out, and it'll wear off myogenic decline and a bunch of other things like senescent cells. If you can activate the satellite cell every so often, here's another thing. They even mentioned this before. They mentioned this. You could read, there's articles, papers on it. They tell you, as a young person, okay, you're going to get damaged in sports. When you were young, you probably did a lot of sports. You were an active child, an active kid. I don't know what you did. Swimming in the summertime, ice skating in the winter, whatever, wherever you are in your region. I don't know where you are. Maybe you kicked a ball, soccer ball, you played football. You definitely played sports, and I know this. You have a lot of energy as a young person. You overworked those muscles. You overworked them because you were gung-ho. You wanted to play. You were with your friends in the playground, whatever it is that you were doing there, climbing, this, that, kicking a ball in the field or whatever you're doing there. You definitely are doing a lot of things that you're unaccustomed to when you're a kid. And you definitely got this damage, and you got an influx of nuclei. You get more nuclei. That makes you better as an athlete. These nuclei, they enhance you. They're associated with strength, power, Speed and performance, bigger, better, stronger, and faster. Strength, power, speed, and performance, they are associated with that. That's why the OAC wants to punish people on steroids, because the steroid people are able to lift heavier, getting how should I put it? They're able to accumulate more adaptations through lifting something heavy, getting these nuclei. It's a proven fact. They're taking a steroid, so they're pushing their body beyond what a natural body could go through. And so they're able to accumulate more adaptations than a normal body would usually get. So I'm not saying that steroid users are not able to accumulate some myofibrillar growth and some how should I put it, nuclei. Now, they're doing that through adaptation, through lifting something heavier, but they've maxed it. They've maxed it out. Me, in the past, I wasn't doing that. I was doing repetitive damage to muscles, repetitively, week after week, to get to where I wanted to go, and eating a lot of food, being in an anabolic growth state to push that domain. Now, people ask me, well, how can I get stronger? I want to get even stronger as a natural person in the gym. It's really simple. If you're in an anabolic growth state, that meaning you're full, you're eating a lot. I mean, you're going down to the buffet, you're eating for hours, and you're just fucking eating like crazy. You're able to suppress that catabolic hormone. It'll convert to an androgen, so it doesn't have to compete with the myocytic androgen receptor. That makes you anabolic. So now you're gonna have more molecules binding to the androgen receptor, giving you more force production. You're able to leap in strength, giving you more adaptations in lifting. Plus, not only that, you'll get an adaptation in muscle damage as well. You'll get these muscles will get damaged. They'll repair your model stronger. They'll come back bigger. You'll get a donation of nuclei, and you'll get more contractile proteins because you'll be in an anabolic growth state. If you're in an anabolic growth state, trust me, those muscle fibers are going to start massing up like crazy with contractile proteins, and you'll be able to get more myofibrillar growth as well through muscle damage. You understand me at the same time? So there you go. How do you bust through plateaus? Anabolic growth state. How do steroid people bust through plateaus? They take a steroid, they inject it, but they're using a molecule. They're using a molecule to preserve. Look, your body, when it's starving, it'll release a lot of hormones. That's why people say, well, I was starving, I was intermittent fast, I was fasting or whatever, and my growth hormone is through the roof, my testosterone is through the roof and all that, because it's a preservation. It's a preservation. It's a preservation. I don't know how strong you can feel because your growth hormone, your testosterone went through the roof because you're starving. How strong are you if you're starving? I don't know. It's preservation. But people are using it for the opposite purposes. They're using it endogenously, injecting, because they want to, increase force production, and the byproduct is sarcoplasmic, a lot of it, like I said. But there are some adaptations in lifting heavier. You understand me? You have to push it to get more adaptations. Otherwise, zero adaptations. You'll be like Blaha here. Zero adaptation, sarcopenia now, the reverse. He's exhausted his satellite cells by chronically lifting. He's exhausting them. He's suffering from sarcopenia.
I got 15 on this, and then it just stops. See me there? That one was slower at the top. Then I tried to lift it, and it barely moved. That was actual failure. And so one of the things I personally like
That was actual failure at the top? I don't know.
to do when I know that I'm about one rep from failing, I like to do stuff like a slightly longer.
Like I said, here's again. If you can't eat and be in an anabolic growth state to push, to be stronger, to push through plateaus or whatever, to get more adaptations, again, you could use eccentric exercises, partial eccentrics, to pull more weight. If you can pull more weight for reps doing the eccentric partials, then you're able to bust through these plateaus. But again, you still need to eat somewhat. But here's the problem. Even eating, you could be adapted to eating as well. Look, if you're eating 3 meals a day, your body's adapted. Now, people will go, okay, I'm eating 5 or 6 meals. Okay, but over time, after 5, 6 meals, your body adapts to these 5, 6 meals a day. So how do you get more adaptations? Anabolic growth state. Why? Oh, you're eating, you're stretching your stomach. The more you can eat, the more you can accommodate. Your body can your stomach can accommodate by stretching. The more it stretches, the next time you come back and eat at the buffet or wherever you are at home, I don't know, you'll be able to eat the entire fridge. So it's an adaptation process as well, eating and growing at the same time. That's why it's, like I said, it is extremely hard to put on muscle. Extremely, extremely hard. Even a person on steroids still has to do it natural, whether they're taking steroids or not, a molecule. Muscle has to be built in the natural world. Even if you are taking cosmetics, it still has to be built through a repair and a remodeling. It still has to be injured in the natural world. Now, but like I said, a lot of these guys, they run away from DOMS. They associate DOMS with being something bad, and so they don't really get any more adaptations there in muscular strength, and then they're all getting injured and dropping off the face of the planet. All these power lifters on steroids and bodybuilders, they're all injured, and then they just fuck off and they disappear or they die or whatever. You understand me? That's what usually happens.
I'll pause it on the bench. Right? You'll notice on the curl, I knew that I only had maybe 1 rep left. So I held it, I squeezed it a little harder at the top and tried to control it a little more on the way down so that I...
Ask yourself this question: why can't he just do the negatives on there? He can get a box, climb up, and just keep doing the negatives. Just keep doing the negatives without the... He could do the eccentrics without doing any of the concentric. Why doesn't he ever do that? Just something different. Why doesn't he ever do anything different? Even in my video, I posted a video, I did something different. It's uncommon. To the exercises that I did with my shoulders were all the reverse of what you would normally do. It's uncommon. But does anybody do that in the gym? No. Because everybody wants to look good. Gyms are not for looking good. It's for building up your strength and getting stronger at whatever it is you're doing. I don't know. You understand me?
Would make sure that I failed. Same thing with the pull-ups, and I know this is probably my last rep. What do I do? Go into a deeper stretch, hold it at the bottom, and then try to come up. And the idea behind all of this is this takes me to within 1 rep of failure. A lot of these are 1 rep reserve or 0 reps in reserve. In other words, when you know that your form is going to break, that's it. That is tempos, and when you get to a last rep and you know that that's the last one that you can possibly do without the form breaking down, because it slows down. And I'll usually notice for me, if you were to time any of those last reps, like that one right there,
you do not need to go to the last rep where you can't to failure. You don't need to do that because you're going to continue doing more sets. It's not a necessity. You may get injured and then it'll take you out. What is the point of doing that? If you're injured, now you can't lift at all. Or you died because the weight fell on your neck.
Move about 30 to 50% slower, like if you were to time them. And that's what you're looking for. The weight moves slower. And you're actually pushing it. So usually on that last rep, when you know it's feeling heavy, you know you're getting real fatigued, and you try to push it hard. You're like, let me see if I can do this one a little faster. Let me contract a little more, maybe pause and try to drive it up.
Again, you're lifting the same weight and you're trying to get an adaptation lifting the same weight. You already adapted to it. It can't give you any more adaptations. So he's telling you, well, let's try to get an adaptation lifting the same weight by going to failure. How's that going to work for you? That's crazy. You need to lift slightly heavier to get a new adaptation. Your body's already adapted to this. So going to failure is just a waste of time. You're either going to injure yourself or you're going to fucking die by the bar falling on your neck.
And you squeeze and push or pull as hard as you can, and it moves slower. That is the giveaway. Okay? Because what we're looking for, again, is to be able to...
Again, what are we looking for, Blaha?
Maintain the same form without cheating. And that's what you'll see. You'll see guys who'll start cheating, trying to get through. That's not necessarily training hard. You've already reached failure. You're just beating up your recovery. But if you do every single set the way I just described, to where you get real close, right? All of these, because a lot of these were first sets. A lot of these are first sets out of 3, because a lot of times I do 3 sets of every exercise. Okay? There's a little more body English on the rowing, but on that last set of rows there, I let it stretch at the bottom, and then that's it.
You didn't let it stretch. You didn't let it stretch at the bottom. You're just dropping the weight. You're throwing it up and down in the air. You're fatiguing, man. You are fatiguing your muscles. You're just fatiguing them. It's crazy, guy.
I had to cheat it up just a little bit more, and that can be your other.
A fatigue isn't considered muscle damage. There's no adaptation process there. It's again, it's the only adaptation you get a lot for throwing these weights are more of these androgen receptors. That's an adaptation process. Androgen receptor, chemical strength, so forth and so on. Some proliferation of motor units to lift something heavier, to be good at lifting something. But again, like I said, he never built anything because he takes steroids. Without those steroids, it's all going to just go away. It's going to go away when he stops because he didn't build it naturally. These androgen receptors, even the chemical and the proliferation, everything, he's relying on chemicals, the chemicals that he's injecting.
If you have to change or cheat or use just a hair more body English.
I can guarantee you if Blaha goes off his steroids, he's going to be something extremely scary. He's going to look really scary. None of you people are going to tune in anymore because he's just going to look like a shell of himself.
You're there. You're 0 reps in reserve. And
it's happened to many people. Look it up on YouTube. Many people, and I've read magazines in the past. There's stories, people, they went off their steroids and they just became a shell of themselves. They actually became weaker and smaller after they went off the steroids.
If you do that, all the available data shows that you've gotten about all the muscle growth you're going to get out of that set, at least for the upper threshold fibers.
Here's the thing. I'm in my late 50s, okay? I'm not on any steroids, and I never took steroids. And why do I still look the way I do? I have my strength intact, my body and everything. I'm not saying that I didn't go through some things in my lifetime, but I'm just saying, why do I have a good majority of my muscle? Why do I have a good majority of my strength still? And I'm not even a chronic lifter. I lift very periodically. I mean very, especially during the whole COVID thing and everything, and after that, whatever. Why do I have it all? Because no steroids, bro. Steroids, they will make you into a shell of yourself. They'll make you into nothing. You'll just be a skinny, weak dude. Like I showed you that guy, what's his name? Squat Master. Look at that Squat Master, dude. I found another video. I posted in my community section, Squat Master. Check him out. Yeah, man. Look at him. 10 pound squats. He does 10-pound squats. What the fuck? Because he's just a shell of himself after steroids. That's what happens to people.
And for the advanced lifter, that's what you're looking for. And I think people have to remember that too. The more advanced you get, the data is starting to show that your more intermediate fibers stop growing more and more. Okay? And that's the difference between a true...
It's not the more advanced you become, it's you become adapted, so there's no more damage.
The advanced lifter and say a late novice or whatever, late novice...
Fibers don't grow. Fibers don't grow if you're not eating. Again, protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown to build up those contractile proteins on that myofibrillar to get bigger. So if you're not eating enough, how the hell could you build up more contractile proteins? You can get density, which is really hard to see. Density, you could build it through muscle damage. You'll get denser, definitely get stronger and denser. But getting mass on the myofibrillar to actually visually see it is based on contractile proteins. Yes.
Have a lot more muscle fibers that are capable of growth, but different fibers as you go up that rate coding chain, they have a max growth that they'll go to in the same hormone profile. Again, unless you add stuff to your body, then they'll start growing again. So as you get more advanced, sets beyond failure don't really do much. Okay, because you're back to hitting those intermediate fibers again. Once you fatigue the fibers with the most growth potential, which is, again, it goes up that chain, that's it. Not much else you're going to get out of it. Now, could you just as an insurance policy occasionally do a rest, pause, rep or something? Because I do that sometimes on these. Some of the rows I do that a little bit. Sure. Sure, you could do that. I mean, some of the pull-ups are really done that way. I'm resting a little longer at the bottom to try to squeeze one more. All right, trying to get one more rep. Sure,
Why?
but it's just a little bit of an insurance policy.
Why do you need that one more rep? For what purpose?
But the thing is, what you're looking for is for your form not to break. Because if form breaks down to have technical failure, that means the most important muscles in the movement have already reached fatigue and failure. Okay? They've already reached it. And that's what we're looking for. That is how we would define training hard.
Fatigue and failure. Fatigue and failure is nothing if you're adapted. You're fatiguing and you're failing at an adapted state. Okay. Hello.
For muscle building purposes.
Any more adaptations? I thought people were going to the gym to get more adaptations. Oh, I know. People are going to the gym to fatigue themselves, right? To fatigue and exhaust yourself so that you can walk around with an inflammatory response. You want to inflame your muscles and walk around. Oh, and the pump. Don't forget the pump. Pump is very important. You want to walk around with a pumped body, right? Which is transient, and then this inflammation. And then go back the next day and inflame your muscles again and walk around like that all the time. Look, pretending that you're big. Feeling and looking big because you have an inflammatory response, you swell the cells, and you got this pump. And I don't know how much carbohydrates you're eating. You're probably drawing in as well the carbohydrates in the muscles, so more sarcoplasmic muscles. See what I mean? It's an energy source. People, man, I guess people just don't understand. When you're chronically lifting, that is associated with performance. It is associated with performance. It is not associated with growth. Think about it. Association with performance, what is that? Chronic lifting. Okay, what's associated with growth? Growth. Periodic lifting will be associated with growth. Now, if you're chronically lifting, what's that associated with? See what I mean? You're an endurance athlete now. Endurance athlete.
Okay? And again, if you do every set that way, you don't have any real jump volume, do you? Right? You don't have any jump volume. If your volumes are appropriate, you can do fairly intermediate volumes, 10 to 15.
All of these things are bro talk, junk volume, blah, blah, blah. It's all baloney. Just focus on that more adaptations.
15 sets a week per muscle group. If you train every set to that level, right, to where you're right there to where the last reps is just a hair slower. And people oftentimes expect, it should be a super slow 5. So no, that's usually grinding through with bad form. You're usually shifting around, not really doing much because the primary movers are being shifted out of it, right? You're having to cheat weight up. And usually if we're doing cheat reps, you're going to probably reach true failure. Because that's the only way you know that you failed, when you literally miss a rep. So like on these rows.
Cheat failures and stuff. You don't need to cheat. Here's another thing. When people do the full concentric exercise, they go, well, they cheated because they threw the weight up in the air. Let's say you're doing a barbell curl. They'll go, okay, he cheated because he threw it up or he bounced it or something. Okay, maybe. I don't know, in a competition, something you're competing, it should be strict form, right? If you can make it. People are bouncing things around, throwing it up. It's a lot easier to throw weights up in the air. But it's not important in a gym when you're trying to get more adaptations. You can move a weight in a partial eccentric movement. So you could lift more weight to get more adaptations, because your body is unaccustomed to doing that heavier weight. You understand me? So you could get an adaptation. Yes.
There's just a little bit of body English, and I pretty much do reach failure on that, right? But that's it.
Now that you become adapted to doing this row, what do you need to do? You need to keep adding weight. Some people will call it progressive overloading. Well, they call it an overload. In science, it's an overload. Then you get nuclei. People think, what's this overload and nuclei? The overload means an adaptation. When they say overload, they mean an adaptation, and you're increasing, something is increasing It's increasing. And then if it's increasing, your body has to adapt to it. How? It gets these micro injuries, and then it adapts by becoming what? Bigger and stronger. You understand me? It repairs and remodels stronger. Now, how to get it? Okay, sorry. It repairs it. It repairs it stronger. Get it? A repairing and remodeling stronger. Now, how do you get the myofibrillar to become bigger? Well, protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown. You understand me? To actually see that mass on that myofibrillar.
To maintain the same form.
I'm not saying that these myofibrillars that you're growing, they can't measure up to the other myofibrillars. They will, but they're small. They're small. They're hard to see. You don't know how many of them you're creating because you can't particularly see them. You have hundreds of thousands of muscle fibers in your body. Let's say you gained, I don't know, maybe you gained a couple of hundred muscle fibers through adaptations and lifting, right? You got some damage, repair and remodeling, and you grew some. Let's say there was no apoptosis. There was some growth there. You grew it, it repaired, it remodeled. You ate normal food, whatever. So it's not like they won't do that. Okay, they're there. They're there. They measure up to your normal size of your normal fibers. But here's when it comes into building mass on the myofibrillar. What do you need to do? It's a training. You need to go down somewhere, I don't know where, someplace, and eat for hours. That is a training. You're going to the gym and lifting for hours, right? You're training your muscles to lift these weights and, bust muscles and all that. What about training your body to get big and strong? How do you do that? It's easy. Go and eat a shitload of food all day and all night if you have to. And then guess what? You're going to get bigger, and then you're going to get really strong, man. Yeah, you're going to get even stronger. So there you go.
All the way through without that breaking. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative.
Thank God. I don't know. Was it informative? Not particularly. I was not interested to hear this. Training to 0 reps in reserve. You don't need to do that. It's a waste of time. Don't listen to him, man. It's crazy. You'll end up looking like that. I'll see you in the next one. Don't you think about that, like, subscribe, support the channel, comment down below, helps with the algorithm, broski. I'll see you in the next one. Yes, Jason Blaha again. I don't know, man. He is absolutely a terrible coach. I'll see you in the next one.